Welcome to Justice for New York. I'm your host, Charles Collins. All documentation concerning Justice for New York videos can be found at justicefornewyork.com. There are also family court petitions concerning the right to a jury trial, petitions to vacate support magistrate and judicial hearing officers' orders as they are issued in violation of the New York State Constitution, and there is also a demand for probation reports and psychological evaluations that the court orders, but the court orders that you can't read them or see them. That is a violation of your right to due process and equal protection of the law. They also order that the people preparing these reports do not have to testify and there is no accountability. This has to stop. Demand your reports so you can know what's being told to the court. And now for our presentation. Thank you. Back in 1990, or thereabouts, I discovered a lot of the issues I'm raising here, the violation of the right to public trial, jury trial, court of proper jurisdiction, and I challenged the statutes, I think 12 or 13 statutes. But I also read the Constitution, and it says that you can appeal directly from the family court to the Court of Appeals, skip the appellate division, if the only issues are the constitutionality of state statutes. So I filed with family court, and Judge Austin said, well, I didn't show any cases that held that they were unconstitutional. Well, if the cases had already been declared unconstitutional, I wouldn't have to have been arguing them, now would I? So I filed directly with the Court of Appeals. And I argued, this court has jurisdiction to hear this appeal directly from the family court pursuant to 5601B2 as the only issues to be raised on appeal are the constitutionality of state statutes. Appellant argues that Social Services Law Section 111G is unconstitutional and that the following Family Court Act sections are also unconstitutional in part or whole. And then I list them all, as they violate either the New York State Constitution or the United States Constitution or both. Constitutional grounds. An appeal may be taken as of right from a judgment of a court of record or of original which finally determines an action where the only question involved on the appeal is the validity of state statute. My part of that was severed by the judge ruling against me. And I also asked for expedited because I'm facing imprisonment in a closed courtroom and everything else. This is what I got back from Chief Judge the Honorable Richard D. Simmons. Ordered, the appeal be and the same hereby is transferred without cost by the courts to the Appellate Division, 3rd Department, upon the ground that a direct appeal does not lie when questions other than the constitutional validity of a statutory provision are involved. New York State Constitution, CPLR. Well, wait a minute. I specifically stated the only issues to be raised on appeal are the constitutionality of state statutes. So I sent them a letter. Dear Judge Simmons, this is in response to your order. I refer you to my jurisdictional statement. The only issues to be raised on appeal are the constitutionality of state statutes. To my knowledge, I have not raised any question other than the constitutionality of state statutes as they relate to either the United States Constitution or the New York State Constitution. Would you please tell me what questions you are claiming that I have raised other than the constitutionality of state statutes? Very plain and simple. I get a letter back from them, not from him, but from the chief clerk. Refers to my letter to Acting Chief Judge Richard D. Simmons. However, because you have asked for, unfortunately the questions you pose cannot be completely answered. In appeals, as in motion matters, the decisions and orders of the court must speak for themselves without administrative elaboration or interpretation. However, because you asked for reconsideration, your letter will be treated as a motion for such relief. In other words, what he's saying is, I have no right to know on what grounds I'm being denied my constitutional right to appeal to the New York State Court of Appeals. He is deliberately violating my right. He can't state where I raised any other issue because I was very clear in stating that was the only issues. I then get a letter from, again from the Honorable Richard D. Simmons, telling me my reconsideration motion has been denied. Again, I'm not told why. I'm not given anything else, but he has just denied me my constitutional rights. Who is Chief Judge Richard D. Simmons, who took an oath of office to defend and protect the Constitution of the United States and New York State, to strip me of my New York State constitutional right? This is what we have. And he was appointed by no other than Mario Cuomo to be acting Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals. And we all know Mario Cuomo is a Democrat. And then they have the audacity to put Simmons a stickler on integrity. They're always talking about how great each other is, how they have all this integrity. You know, they figure if they lie enough about it, people may actually believe it. There is no integrity in the Court of Appeals. And we'll get into that even farther down the road. But this is, you know, how great he is, and Albany Law School professor, and, you know, or no, he wasn't, but, and to think today, he's still collecting a pension after stripping every citizen in this state. Think about it. Every citizen in this state that's been in family court and deprived of their right to a public trial, a jury trial, a court of proper jurisdiction, and the violation of their constitutional rights by these state statutes can thank Judge Simmons, because he is a coward and he does not stand up for it. He is a traitor to both the United States Constitution, the New York State Constitution, and make no mistake about it, he is a terrorist. Okay, now, he sent it back to the appellate court. I prepare all the briefs and everything else for the appellate court. And believe me, it's not something you do in 5 minutes. I get a response from the appellate court. The order appealed from, entered September 24th, 1992, is a non-final order and is thus not appealable to this court. It is appealable to the court because it's severed from the main proceeding. It's already been determined. The issues have already been determined. So what they're basically saying is, with this order, you're being denied your constitutional right to a public trial, a jury trial, a court of proper jurisdiction, and other constitutional rights you're entitled to. You can't raise those issues until after the complete proceeding is ended and you're in jail. In other words, you can't do anything about them stripping you of your rights. That's a bunch of malarkey. So of course, when I got this one, I appealed it to the Court of Appeals. And I cited the case law to support my position. The Court of Appeals in Sterling Plumbing Company versus Maple Hill states, the motion to dismiss the appeal should be denied. The determination of the appellate division, insofar as it dismissed the defendant's counterclaim, which is what they did to me, my counterclaim, I'm being deprived of my rights, impliedly severed it from the action. It was dismissed, it was severed from the action, which is still pending, undetermined, to that extent is final. It is the same theory of implied severance that a determination dismissing one of several causes of action in a complaint is to that extent held final, although other causes of action have yet to be determined. This is right on point. The following established practice under the Civil Practice Act. It is our opinion that an order of disposition is one which affects a substantial right. Yeah, my substantial right to a public trial, jury trial, of a person agreed. Such an order is appealable as of right. The order here is such an order. The motion to leave to appeal is therefore denied as unnecessary. In other words, he had the right to appeal. I had a right to appeal because my cross motion and what I was demanding had been severed from the main action. Of course, we're going to get into it. Who do I get? I get the Honorable Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals, Judith Kaye. And she's ordered on the court's own motion, in other words, on her motion, that the appeals taken as of right from the appellate division orders entered May 12th, respectively, being the same hereby are dismissed without cause, each upon the ground that the order appealed does not finally determine the proceeding within the meaning of the Constitution. That said motion for leave to appeal and the same hereby is dismissed upon the ground that the appellate division sought to be appealed does not finally determine the proceeding within the meaning of the Constitution. I just showed the case law that supports my position. Judge Kaye is not going to address these issues. Governor Cuomo, Attorney General Snyderman, Senator Schumer, and Chief Judge DeFore. Who is Richard D. Simmons, acting Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals, to deny me my New York State constitutional right to appeal to the Court of Appeals? He lied in his decision, stating I raised other issues than the constitutionality of state statutes. He knows it, he can't show it, and then I am told that they can't tell me what issues I raised. I have to take their word for it. And then they send it to the whole court, and the whole court throws it out. That tells you how corrupt the New York State Court of Appeals is. It's the most corrupt court in the United States. Every one of those judges need to be removed from office. They're not protecting the constitutional rights of litigants in this state. Judge Richard D. Simmons, issuing a false certificate. A person is guilty of issuing a false certificate when, being a public servant authorized by law to make or issue official certificates or other official instruments, and with the intent to defraud, deceive, or injure another person, he attempted to defraud me, he's deceiving me, and he's injuring me by stripping me of my constitutional rights to a public trial, a jury trial, a court of proper jurisdiction. The support magistrates are illegal. Who is he? Why should he be held above the law? I'm tired of hearing from you public Democrats and everybody else telling me no one is above the law, and yet you cover it up. This guy needs to be arrested and put in jail. And I don't give a hoot about the statute of limitations. I have been denied my rights for 30 years. He's collecting a state pension. For what? Stripping the citizens of this state of their rights? And you four are going to sit there and do nothing? Just like all your predecessors have done nothing? And Judge Kaye sitting there saying, my case hadn't been severed, it most certainly had been, and the case law supports my position. Also, further on, she stated that the right to a public trial, when we raised these issues for people in jail, it was Charles Collins versus Schufeld, which will be addressed later on. She held that a right to a public trial is not a sufficient right in this state, by stating no substantial constitutional question was raised, meaning the right to a public trial is not a substantial right in this state. The right to a jury trial is not a substantial right. How bad is the state of New York? How corrupt is it? And he leads all back to Andrew Cuomo's father Mario, who appointed both Kaye and Simmons to the Court of Appeals. And they sit there and have the audacity to say these people have integrity? They don't have integrity. They're whores. Both of them. They're whores for the judiciary. They're corrupt. And Simmons needs to be arrested and put in jail. Either he comes out and states what other issues I raised, or he's guilty of it. He needs to contradict what I've stated and what I've written in my paperwork, and he can't do it. Because he's a sniveling coward. Both Kaye and Simmons are traitors to both the United States Constitution, the New York State Constitution, and make no mistake about it, they're both terrorists. Do something. You Democrats keep claiming that you're there to protect everybody. You're there to corrupt everybody and strip them of their rights.